Thanks for joining us for City Council Comments. I'm Steve Erickson along with Mayor Jerry Cook. Today we're talking about both the January 3rd and the January 17th City Council meetings. Thanks for coming in today.
Absolutely.
Into a new year here, we got 2 council meetings under our belt.
Yep, and there's no problem going outside today when it's 40 degrees. And
I was going to say, it's January, so we should be talking about like snowshoeing or some other winter activity, but instead they're already golfing out at Bunker Hills today.
Instead, our ice rinks are closed and the driving range is open.
That's an only in Minnesota thing, right?
Yep, I'm going to have to refine my coat again when it gets cold.
Yeah, so they're actually out on the driving range today, which we're taping this on, Thursday, January 19th, actually. Yeah. This is the first day that they open, and they're hoping to stay open until the weather changes or it rains or something else. So
I think their official statement was, as long as the weather holds or something like that.
Which we know in Minnesota can change in a dime. So,
yeah.
But
I saw it on channel, one of the news programs this morning, and one guy's out there in a light jacket, one guy's out there in a golf shirt and short sleeves. And
yeah, we were out there this morning there was quite a few people out there, about 5 people that we talked to. So yeah, crazy.
It's a beautiful thing.
All right.
Guys are out scraping their driveways, trying to find the driveways again.
Yes, that's a lot of work with all the snow we've had and the ice that's built up. All right, we'll move into things here and we're actually going to talk about our first meeting first on this program. We usually do the opposite, but that was our first meeting of the year, and we had 2 new faces on the Coon Rapids City Council, and those 2 were sworn into office.
Yeah, the Honorable Tammy Frederickson came in and swore in the new council members, and we had 2 new ones. We had Brad Griskowiak elected in Ward 1 and Bill Kicker elected in Ward 2. And then it was time to elect Jenny Geisler in Ward 4 for her first full term after now an election. And then Steve Wells, council member at large, for another 4-year term. So yeah, swearing in 4 of them, it was a big night.
All right, so happy to have them on board. We got the 2 new representatives and then the 2 returning council members. So up to still a full council, which is good.
And it was a full council chambers with the new members coming in, plus council member Bill Kicker and council member Brad Griskowiak have been both very active in Boy Scouts. So we had a lot of scouts there and scout leaders, all in their Class A's to lead us in the pledge. So we had scouts there from Troop 212 and Troop 524. So it was really fun to see all the young men there and leading the Pledge of Allegiance, and it was cool.
All right. Well, so that is our first meeting. We do some regular things that happen each year on that first meeting. It really is more of an organizational meeting to get ready for business for the new year.
Yeah, reestablishing the structure of the council meeting and the rules of order, some banking things, figuring out who's going to be doing the minutes, and it's a very fast meeting.
Yeah, it sounded like it was pretty quick. You adjourned, 25 minutes after you started. So that's,
and the majority of that is posturing around getting people sworn in, and nothing controversial. And
okay, so basically the council secretary was designated, the official depository and bank was adopted, and then rules of procedure, the official newspaper, and then you also do council appointments and other appointments to various boards and commissions, correct?
Right. So Steve Wells was again set up. He's the mayor pro tem. So if I'm absent, then he steps in and serves as the mayor. We have the Twin City Gateway Visitors Bureau Board. We have appointments there. The joint powers for the law enforcement, for the fire. There was several things.
It's usually a pretty long list.
It's a pretty long list. The list is probably longer than most of the meetings because some of them, did you even meet last year? But we serve on the boards. We don't drive the boards. So it's Councilmember Johnson was the North Star Corridors. I don't remember what it was, the development board or something. Yeah. And his only meeting last year was when they dissolved the board.
So we didn't need to go through and appoint anybody this year for that.
Didn't need to do that, no. But but the boards that we are involved in, they're very important boards, like the community education one. It gives us liaison to that school board, or that school commission, so that everybody kind of can keep informed what's going on in the schools and the communities. The Twin City Gateway Visitors Bureau, that's the hotel lodging. It helps fund community events and startup events, and so there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of moving parts. I shouldn't be so quick to discount those, because the appointments are very important. That some of the law enforcement ones are very key, and all tying the fire departments together and what they do.
Okay, so basically some of the council members serve on them as primary folks, as alternates when some people can't make it, and then also some staff members serve on those boards as well.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, that's all we have to talk about on the January 3rd. Again, like we said, that's just an organizational meeting to get ready for the new year. We'll move along now to our sort of first meeting that had more business on it than just the organizational stuff. Tuesday, January 17th. One of the first items there was a Snowflake Days proclamation. That's coming up soon. Who knows if the snow will be around by the time that starts, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know how many of the events are dependent on the snow other than the family fun day at the end, where they plan on having the outdoor ice skating and things. Last year, they ended up canceling the outdoor fun day because it was too cold. Who knows what'll happen this year. But it starts January 26th. Former Mayor Tim Howe kind of got on board with them when he was mayor and started the Mayor's Simulator Golf Tournament. We've got the 4 golf simulators up at Bunker Hills, and it makes for a really big event. As of this week, there was only openings for a couple teams left. A lot of golf. And that kicks off Snowflake Days, and then there's multiple events. But they brought in, Diane Busta has been running this or leading this for a number of years, and she likes to bring in the new marquee, and this year's marquee was Sue Leggett, who has been very active in all kinds of things around town, from the Miss Coon Rapids pageant to the Lions to, I shouldn't have started because I know the list is long.
But definitely a lot of community service there.
A lot of community service. She'll be a great marquee.
Okay. So again, Snowflake Days kicks off January 26th. It runs through February 12th. You can find out all the events online. They do have a website. I believe the address is snowflakedays.weebly.com, if that is the correct address.
Right.
Otherwise, you should be able to Google search it as well.
I'm a fan of just, yeah.
Otherwise, we will have all the events posted on our channels as well, so you can check those out and get out there and participate in all the fun activities.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of stuff going on.
All right. We also had a presentation from Mercy Hospital. They sort of had an update on their expansion, and they have some new news in the new year where they essentially become one hospital with 2 campuses here in the North Metro. Yeah,
so they've been posturing for this for quite a while, and I think I don't know if this was the initial kickoff or not, but Children's Hospital came to Mercy and they said, we want to partner with you. We want to do the critical care, but we're not going to set it up with 2 hospitals. So Mercy combined their OB department from Unity to Mercy, built that big, beautiful baby.
The Mother Baby Center?
Thank you, Mother Baby Center. Yeah. The mother, I'm going, child baby? That doesn't sound right. So the beautiful new Mother Baby Center there, in 2015 that opened. So it's a partnership with Children's Hospital. So they combined those there, and they started figuring out what other things can we combine. Right. What makes sense. There are certain things that are critical to each location, like the ER, the emergency department. Both of these are very vital and very busy emergency departments. Yep. But some of the specialty care, they thought they can do better if they combine them on one campus. So there's one license for the 2 hospitals. Sarah Krieger is the president of the Mercy Hospital, and a senior vice president with Alina. Came out with Craig Malm and did the presentation. They're investing over $100 million in the two properties. The most of it, like $75 million, is going into the Coon Rapids Mercy campus. And with the parking ramp, with the new operating center, it was really it was a 30-minute program where she just laid out all of the changes, all of the expansions, all of the remodeling. And it's really worth, if you're living in the area, to check it out, to see how much is coming to Coon Rapids and how they're dividing up all of the services between Mercy and Unity.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I guess that makes sense if you have duplication of services within an 8-mile whatever. It makes sense to maybe join some of those, and they've done that with the Mother Baby Center, like you said, birthing services at Mercy. Also, the cardiac care is at Mercy.
Yep.
And then they basically moving the mental health services over to the Unity campus.
Right.
And that's where that'll be. And I know they're opening some new rooms or beds there this spring. So
Yeah,
a lot of work going on at both campuses.
Yeah, and I think part of that was there's so much of the mental health involves the addiction, and when they come to the Mercy in Coon Rapids, it was mental health, but the addiction services were down at Unity. So now they're getting everything in one spot so they can really help them. Plus, at that campus, I think they're going to have like 33 or some number of private mental health rooms, that's just not happening anywhere currently. Okay. So it should be a very nice service for them, and it should serve everybody well.
Yeah, and I know eventually they plan to open at Mercy at the Coon Rapids campus something with joints to get your joints replaced, like a whole new unit, because we're living longer and people are finding that they need more body parts replaced. Yeah, because they're living longer, even more than just one time that some folks get that done.
Yep. They've got a partnership with Twin City.
Is it orthopedic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's coming eventually. I'm not sure the date on that, but I know they've talked about that. So
yeah, I think they plan on having everything done by the beginning of 2019. Okay. I think they're shooting for 18, but to give themselves a little extra time, she said they would be done by 19.
All right, and then it'll be time to go back and renovate the stuff from 15 years ago.
Maybe. Maybe.
All right, well, good to have that information, and good to have them in the community, certainly.
Absolutely.
Council adopted a resolution. This awards a contract for the 2017 Sanitary Sewer Lining Program. Is this the last time we're going to talk about this?
I hope so, because if we're talking about it again, something went desperately wrong. So apparently, this is our last mile and a half or something of clay tile. A sewer system. Yep. And the council started this many years ago, many years before I came on the council, just being proactive. You know, rather than waiting for the clay tile to fail and then having to dig it up and replace it, there's a product that goes through and relines it and essentially creates this fiberglass lining that seems to be indefinite. And they were planning on setting this last mile and a half aside for a number of years because it's newer than the rest of what's already been done. And then they filmed it and they said, you know what, let's just finish it. So it's like a mile and a half, and then all 80 miles, I think I was told, of clay tile will be lined, and we should be done. We shouldn't have to look back at it again. I mean, they'll still clean it, they'll still clean it, they'll still inspect it, but we shouldn't have to do any more maintenance on this.
Because this is supposed to last pretty much forever, or a long time.
Exactly. Well, they started it out on the East Coast. I think we talked about it. You did a special on it. And they've gone back in when they clean and film the stuff from the 70s, it still looks perfect. Yeah. So I don't know how long it'll last.
All right. Well, let's hope that's the case. And yeah, they'll be wrapped up this year with that work then.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still maintenance because, like Mr. Himmer was talking about, there's still the things that come down from the sidelines that grow into it. But
by and large, the project will be complete.
And it'll be nice to not have to spend that $1 million a year. Yeah, doing that.
Definitely. All right, council approved a planning commission recommendation. This is with conditions. This is for the station area plan, the Riverdale Transit Station. We're talking about the transit-oriented development that is proposed adjacent to that North Star commuter rail station.
Yeah. So this is the 15 acres there, right next to the North Star, the train station, and Sherman Associates brought forward a project that everybody, frankly, is pretty excited about. Sherman's a great developer. They've got a project in town. We've never had any issues with them as landlords. They've always kept them up. So it's coming from somebody that has a very good reputation here and around. When you look at landlords in the Twin Cities, Sherman is listed as right at the top. So I think we're very satisfied that it's going to be a quality project, quality developer. We had an open house on it. There's always the initial, oh my gosh, apartments. And they're primarily market rate apartments, or part of the second phase will be some senior housing. And the neighbors there really, at the open house, spoke mostly about traffic. They had their initial concerns about the buildings. I think that those have been pretty well satisfied, but it really comes down to traffic concerns because they already have issues getting out of that neighborhood, and that was what this came down to at the council meeting too. We like how they've moved it back. We're okay that maybe it's a little bit taller. It's still going to have to come back for design approvals, but we need to figure out this traffic because we can't exacerbate that neighborhood's problems of getting onto Northdale by adding 400 units of housing, which are going to be even more cars.
Okay.
Not as much as if it would have gone commercial,
Right.
but still, we're adding more cars.
Right, and you certainly are, but it's also transit-oriented development, right? So a lot of these folks are going to be utilizing the trains there, although then the train doesn't go all the time. So.
And it's interesting because I served on that commission back in 2008 or whenever it was when we first started looking at that, and they kept calling it a transit-oriented development. Well, I'm really not buying it because it's a commuter train. It's for going to work and coming home from work. It's not for jumping on and going out to eat and jumping on,
Right.
It's not the every 10 minutes like a light rail. It's for going to work and coming home from work.
Okay.
But it is primarily, especially with 2 million square feet of retail right to the north, essentially people could live there and not move their car all week.
Right.
They could get on the train, go to work, come back, walk around to the stores and the restaurants and bars there. And
and there's some bus service too, I imagine, in that area.
Yeah.
Buses that come in that transit station. So
I'm not even going to start to say I know where those are.
So I imagine that happened there. But in any case, the traffic needs to be studied. So is there a process for that, or what's going to happen with that? Do we know yet?
I don't think we got a real clear understanding of how they were going to look at that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, currently the backage road behind Target, that would be the perfect thing to use, except that's their road. It's a private road. Okay. So I would love to see us work out something with them to be able to use that and then add another light there. But that's just me wishful thinking. I don't know what the ultimate answer is going to be.
Okay. So staff will look into that and figure out some options.
It's still got to come back for approvals, and the council made it very clear that one of the things that we really need to look at is that traffic before we're going to be okay with this project.
Okay. So again, this is basically 4 apartment buildings. The first phase includes a 184 unit market rate building and a 71 unit mixed income building.
Right.
Correct. And then a possible second phase of this project would be senior housing.
Yeah, and they initially thought they would start the second phase much later, and now it sounds like they're trying to move it all forward at the same time because they feel the demand is there and they just feel I think they can get some economy of scale building everything at once too.
Okay, so stay tuned. We'll obviously be talking more about this in the coming months.
Yeah, and there's about I think it's a 3,600 square foot commercial building right on the corner of the property. They were hoping to wait and build that later when there was a tenant, but it sounds like that'll be built with with phase 1.
All right. Council adopted a resolution and approved insurance renewals. I know there were several parts of this insurance action, but one specifically we wanted to talk about here.
Yeah, so a lot of it was just figuring out the deductibles and which policies to go with. And then the last one on there is the, what do you call it? It's the
sewer backup.
Sewer
right?
backup insurance.
Something like that.
Yes, yeah. So basically,
no fault sewer backup coverage.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, and staff always encourages us to not spend the money on that. But it's really difficult when somebody has sewer come back up into their home if they haven't bought their own insurance, which we recommend always buying your own sewer backup insurance. But if they haven't, it's really tough to say there's nothing we can do because we've maintained everything. We have the records of maintenance. It was beyond our control, and it just happened. It's really difficult to sit there and say that you can't help them. So when we buy the optional backup insurance, now we are able to pay up to $10,000 from our insurer. Actually, it's a part of our deductible, I'm sorry. Pay up to $10,000 to help them with that. If they've got a completely finished basement, it's not going to cover it. They need to buy their own insurance. But if they don't have that, this is something that we can help them out with. My argument on it is always they don't really have a choice somewhere else to go to buy their sewer service.
Right.
And if something happens, Mr. Himmer gave the example of we're not responsible for the branches, where they go from the main up to the home. And if somebody has a big ball of sewer of roots plugging their sub line, and a drain cleaner comes in there, drills them out, and pushes them into the main line, and suddenly now the main line plugs up and backs into somebody else's home, that's not the city's fault, but it still came from our sewer system. Right. It's nice to be able to say, we can help you out a little bit here.
Right, and again, I mean, that's probably the most important part. This is just $10,000. Even if you can help out, it's $10,000. We've seen these claims as high as $50,000, $60,000.
$60,000, yes.
Right.
Right,
So
because when this comes up, it can be really icky.
Yeah.
I don't want to get technical, but
Nothing. I was going to say a couple things, but I don't know that I can say them on TV. But anyways, again, it's that amount, like you say, that it's the $10,000 through this, but it's good that folks have their own coverage that will provide more coverage for them.
That's the most important thing, and it's not very expensive.
Yeah.
It's not a very expensive rider to add on, and yeah.
Just be safe.
Yep.
Just in case. All right, Council adopted resolutions, two of them, 1726 and 1727. This is the adoption of miscellaneous assessments that were appealed.
Yeah, so code enforcement works through the year with long grass complaints, car complaints, excessive stuff complaints, and addresses that as they need to. And at the end of the year, if there's assessments that have been charged, folks have a process where they can appeal them to our Board of Adjustment and Appeals. These guys are awesome. They're patient, they help people present. I mean, they listen well. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, they either affirm it, rescind it, maybe they'll adjust it or modify it, but then they put it together and then they send it to the council, and the council, we're the final, we have to approve them in order to actually be assessed. Okay. We're the assessing body. But the appeal process ends at the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. So we're looking at maybe changing it because although they're really clear, there's no more appealing, this is your process. If you don't like what the Board of Adjustment and Appeals did, you can take the city to court. You could lobby your council members to try and get somebody to pull one out, but that's unlikely. Mm-hmm. Our Board of Adjustment and Appeals does a really good job. I have full confidence in them. So we're looking at maybe in the future changing this so it doesn't list names and addresses. It just says we're affirming these assessment amounts.
Okay.
I don't know.
So again, the process was, because at one time these did come to council. Those meetings tended to get long because folks were appealing all sorts of things. Yeah. So this process was determined that the Board of Adjustment and Appeals would look at these and present their recommendations to the council for approval. And like you said, the next step, there is another possibility in this process, and that is to appeal it to the court. Right,
yeah because if we say that, you can come back and appeal these to the council, well, why did we have Board of Adjustment and Appeals then?
Right.
Because everybody would take a second shot at the council then.
Right.
And I really think we have some really quality folks on that Board of Adjustment and Appeals, and I have full faith in their decisions. And when you look at their minutes, when you look at their packets, when you listen to how the meeting goes, or if you attend the meetings, you'll know they really do. You get a fair shake there, as fair as anything can be. So,
yep. All right. One other item we want to talk about, of course, it is a new year and the legislature is back in session. Council is setting their legislative priorities for the 2017 session.
Yeah, so we had the bonding bill, as everybody knows, failed last year in the last 15 minutes of the session. And in that bonding bill were a lot of great things for Anoka County and in particular Coon Rapids. We had $12.5 million, the state's half of the grade separation for the Hanson Boulevard over the Burlington Northern Santa Fe tracks. We had I don't remember what the amount was, but for the third lanes on Highway 10 from Hanson Boulevard west to Round Lake Boulevard. And we had a Port River Walk is the old Coon Rapids Shopping Center that was demolished 11 years ago now. It's sat fallow for a really long time. So we need to extend the TIF district on that so the cities can better recoup its money, its investment in that property. So those are our legislative priorities down there. And then we've added one this year because as they are touting the completion of 610 over to 94, all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute, every exchange along there is a full interchange. You can go east or west movement on 610, except in Coon Rapids. In Coon Rapids, you can only go west and come in from the west on 610. So before they declare it completed, we'd like to get at least one full interchange in Coon Rapids. I think that if we can get that on Coon Rapids Boulevard and 610, it will really help that area of Coon Rapids Boulevard. And it would be good for Coon Rapids, be good for everybody.
And that was talked about just a couple of years back. I know there was looking at a potential study or something to study that as a full interchange at Coon Rapids Boulevard and 610.
Yeah, so we did have a study done, and there's some different sketches of how it could look. And the one I recall is actually used Foley Boulevard as part, it tied it in because it's right next to, it's perpendicular to Coon Rapids Boulevard and right next to 610.
Yeah.
So it was kind of tying it all together. I don't know what the ideal study is. I don't know what the ideal movement is, but there has to be a way for us to get a full movement at that exchange.
All right. And like you said, that would be good for business on Coon Rapids Boulevard. Good also for, we were talking about motorists, that you take the wrong turn, you can get stuck on 610 and have to go all the way to Brooklyn Park to turn around to get back on the road you wanted to go on.
I didn't want to go to Brooklyn Park. I wanted to get off at Coon Rapids. Why am I crossing the river here?
Right.
Yeah.
Because going westbound, there's not that exit at Coon Rapids Boulevard and not the exit at East River Road.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So that was kind of added to our legislative priorities. And then we'll continue to advocate for the Greater Minnesota Gateway Project, I think it's called, out on Highway 10. Through Anoka, Fair Oak, through Ramsey. It's defined now. It used to be sort of, they didn't know where the project was going to end. Now with the overpass at Armstrong Boulevard and Ramsey, the corridor has been defined, and now we're just trying to get everything done in between.
Yeah, because like you talk about the third lane in Coon Rapids for Highway 10 going westbound to Round Lake, that really needs to go much further into Anoka and up into Ramsey, really.
Well, and actually they said that Round Lake is how far it needs to go, and the third lanes aren't necessary as much as the elimination of all of the stoplights out there. Right. If you can keep the traffic moving, you can get them through there. The third lanes are really necessary to get all the cars off where they want to go to Main Street, where they want to go up Round Lake Boulevard to get to St. Francis, Oak Grove, Andover, all those places north. But then the remaining cars, it sounds like 2 lanes will be adequate as long as they can keep them flowing.
That's true, because it starts stacking there at Fair Oak when people hit that red light.
Yeah.
And summers are the worst, obviously, with folks traveling up north to go to their cabins.
Yeah, they used to talk about that you could literally drive from Mexico all the way to, you could just stay on the freeway, and the first set of stoplights you would hit was Anoka. So.
Yeah, not good when you have to sit in it, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh, no. All right.
So council will be watching the legislature closely to see, obviously the big thing would be to get that funding for that Hanson overpass.
Yeah, and the bill is there. I mean, we've been hearing back from the legislators. There's a bill number on it, and the folders are created, and the senators are signing on. The House, they're signing on as authors, and it was a very popular project. It's in the governor's bonding bill. It's on everybody's priority. If anything gets done, that will get done.
But my guess is we will not know that till around May 20th, as usual.
I don't know.
So
it's a new year. You've got new majorities, or a new majority. So.
All right. Well, we're out of time. We'll see what happens there in the coming months there. Thanks for coming in today and talking to us, Jerry. Thank you at home for watching, and we'll see you back here again after our 2 meetings in February.